Hey guys, Jen here, real quick with a note at the beginning of the episode. There's a brief mention and discussion of suicide from about the 7-minute mark to the 8-minute mark. If you can just skip the entire episode, totally fine. Just want to skip that minute, also totally fine. Do whatever you need to do to take care of yourselves. Alright, enjoy the episode. We love you. Bye.
Welcome to the Rooster Teeth LGBT Plus podcast, or the Pridecast. Today we have...
Hi, I'm Jen.
And I'm your host, Zoe. We're doing an admin cast today.
Some people had some technical issues and other things come up, so we're just going to chat for a little bit. This episode's probably going to be a little bit shorter than the other ones, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to start us out with a little bit of fun news. Our podcast, Pridecast, that you're listening to right now, is now available on iTunes and Google Play.
That is so... I never imagined being on those platforms, and that is just freaking awesome. That's so cool. It's surreal.
It is kind of surreal to, go subscribe to yourself in iTunes and be like, wait, that's my voice. What?
Uh-huh, right? It's so cool.
And, this is the second podcast I have on iTunes, and it's still this is weird.
Yeah, right? It's just oh my god, I can't believe that we managed to get that.
Yeah. But if you're listening to this cool. on the YouTube where the first two are posted, the links to iTunes and Google Play will be below, and hopefully Spotify will be coming up soon. They're a little bit harder to get on, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, even the Rooster Teeth podcast couldn't get on there for a bit, right?
Yeah, they actually have a vetting process for stuff. I don't know. It's weird. But it's on my to-do list.
That's good.
But yeah, awesome. We're a real podcast now. It's cool.
Yeah. We even have with our songs and stuff, and we have more graphics thanks to EmiLeigh.
Yeah.
Which is fucking awesome. Alrighty. So what was on the list to discuss today?
The main thing I was hoping to talk about this week, because we only have one more episode after this one in June, which is Pride Month. So this week I was hoping to talk about LGBT spaces, so school GSAs, which you and I talked a little bit about earlier, Pride events, specifically either Pride parades or party kind of things, communities that have formed for and around and by LGBT plus people. So just kind of what everyone's experience with that is, and, what you want to gain from those spaces and what you wish you could see more of in those spaces.
Awesome. So do you want to start with that, or shall I?
I can start.
Alrighty.
So the first, LGBT space that I had was my high school had a GSA that actually started with a couple of my friends who, we were a bunch of really strong allies at the time who would later become queer ladies. But we were a bunch of high schoolers who were I'm just a really passionate ally. And 3 actual out LGBT plus people. But it was kind of a nice little community. We had movie nights every couple weeks. We had an after school hangout once a week. That was the actual club, but we didn't really do a lot as far as activism or any sort of education. It was mostly more of a social group.
Well, that's good though, because it still gives a place for people to be social and not feel like they're the odd one out kind of thing.
Exactly.
Because I know very early on, going to a Catholic high school, a lot of the people that were in the LGBT felt like the odd ones out in their group, and they would, it being that school, you often would get referred to as the queer or the gay friend, which is okay, well... Yeah, that's not really my defining trait, although I am.
Yeah.
You guys don't have to, put that label on me as, my primary label. I'd say I'm more of a geek than I am, I'd say that's a more defining label for me than my being pansexual or trans. But, yeah, it was very awkward. And then we had a GSA for like the first 2 years of my high school, but there was like one person in it, and they never ever talked about it. Like they never were very public people, or they never really like tried to do any outreach as far as I saw. So I didn't even know it existed, having gone to that school for 2 years. And then suddenly, I believe my junior year, they were like, "Hey, this exists." And this person, it was like the last semester of junior year, and this person was like, "Hey, so I'm gonna be leaving next year. You want to take care of this?" I'm like, I didn't even know this existed, but sure. Since it looks like I was the only one that was like super passionate about it, that was also kind of okay with taking a leadership position. Although I did end up getting a really good friend that took over after I did.
That's good.
Yeah, she is great and very nice person. But GSA is just are very weird places to be, especially in a very religious associated up like area.
Yeah.
So like during lunches and stuff, we would have like on like, I guess, what was it? We had Trans Day of Visibility was a big one, and we did like little trans flags on pins that we handed out, I believe.
That's really cool.
Yeah, no one took them. People were
Well, I
not
mean,
interested.
it was a Catholic high school,
Yeah,
so probably
the
not a lot of surprise there.
it wasn't really surprising. The one that was surprising was the negative response we got from some teachers about, I believe it was the day of silence after there was, after I believe, trans woman had killed herself. It was a very somber time, and in kind of camaraderie, we tried to like organize this thing where I believe it was, we wore red ribbons, and it was a day of silence, so you just kind of stayed silent through it, just as a sign of like, yeah, there's this thing that happened that you're trying to kind of show that you understand what they went through, and that they're not alone, and other people that might be in like that negative space aren't alone. And so we did that, but like some of the teachers weren't okay with it, and they didn't like that, and they were like, well, this is like interrupting your studies. I'm like, I'm getting an A in your class. It's not.
Yeah, like one
Like,
day you're fine as long as it's not like oral exam and Spanish day. You're fine.
yeah, right. So it's just like, and it's not like we didn't answer. Like if somebody called on us, we answered, but it was just like like small talk. You didn't engage in small talk, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, which was different. I don't know. It was very interesting, and running a GSA at a Catholic high school was very eye-opening to the negativity a lot of people, or the things that people kind of stereotypically associate with being in the LGBT. I believe I mentioned this to you about and I guess it's just for the sake of the podcast at this point, but talking about there was teachers that just believed that we were trying to basically force or like coerce people into becoming gay.
Which is absolutely ridiculous.
It's freaking ridiculous. I'm like, this is totally the gay agenda. No, the gay agenda is just, having a safe space to not feel like, um, we're outcasts,
Yeah.
that we're not
So,
alone out
did
there.
you have like a teacher advisor for the GSA, or was it entirely
Yes, we
student
did.
run? Okay.
We did, and there was one teacher in the English department. We had almost all of our supporters were from the English department, and being in Catholic high school, there was also a theology department, which is the study of religion. In which case, that's where we got all of our negatives, like all the opposition, including there was once a brother, or I don't remember what type of monk he was, but he was a monk from a monastery, and he I believe at one point almost just kind of verbally trash talked one of our members to the point that he cried.
Yikes.
And it was yeah, that was a situation, and he got reprimanded. I believe the monk got reprimanded for it, but I don't remember exactly what happened there. But yeah, it was we weren't in a very welcoming place, and even like um we had a lot of good and a lot of bad. So we also I was good friends with the principal, and I was on okay terms with the president of the school, which I didn't realize were different positions until
I've never heard
until
of
that
a
point.
president of a school before.
It's weird, and I didn't completely understand it myself, but they were like, one of them kind of managed the business side, and one of them kind of managed the like managerial.
I guess that makes sense with a private school, that you'd have to manage like a business side of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they even let me. I was able to convince them that because I wanted to go to prom. Like, I was able to convince them to let me wear a dress to prom.
That's good.
Yeah, which was great, and I was very enthusiastic and very excited that they let me do that. It was something I hadn't expected when they told me I was crying. But it's like also up to that point, I made it very clear that if I wasn't allowed to wear a dress, I wasn't going. Because at that time I was kind of in a rough financial place. The principal offered to rent me a tux, and I was like, I'm not doing that. This is something that I want future members of the transgender community that goes through this school and have a hard time as it is. I want them to have this opportunity to go to prom in what was a personal dream for me, and go to prom in a dress. And I want that to happen, and so I'm not going to go if I can't make that happen, because it's something that should be allowed, and something that I feel like I had a right to be able to do. And that's not to say, like, once I got there were some people that once I got there, they were great about it, and there were people that were like, you're fucking disgusting. And I was just like, you know what, fuck you, I got here, I'm happy, you know what, just go off into your corner and do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, and as long as you're happy and you're comfortable and you got your friends around you, who cares?
Oh yeah. And I managed to get to that position, and I believe there have been actually transgender students that have gone to prom since then, and in the clothing of their choice, which I was like, I'm glad I set that precedence.
That's awesome. That you kind of have that little mark on your school.
Yeah, and it also kind of opened up a mark that no, I didn't even realize that they were doing, but my principal was a really great guy, and I didn't realize this, but if you like, they have the pictures of like the different classes in our school of like who, like, I guess I'm trying to. They have the like a full class picture of everybody, and with their names next to it. And this also translates over to our yearbook, where they put my preferred name on it instead.
That's really nice.
Which was I went back to my school, and my principal saw me. He was like, "Come with me. I need to show you something." And he showed it to me on the wall, and I just like fucking started crying in the middle of the hallway. And I was just like, this means a lot, because in a school where there was a lot of opposition, the people that were good-hearted, let that good-heartedness kind of be the determining factor, you know, which was very awesome.
Yeah. So I want to jump back a little bit. I asked you if you had a teacher advisor, which you did. My school didn't really have that. We had I think technically she was our advisor. She was an English teacher as well, but she was never at any of the meetings or whatever. We just got to use her classroom. But my best friend from high school, who was in the GSA with me, she is now a high school English teacher in middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, which is, interesting. But she hosts the GSA there, which
awesome.
has given me a lot of insight into how it is kind of from the teacher's side. And they're right by a very large, pretty liberal college. So there are some like GSA events that high schoolers are allowed to attend. So
Oh,
there
that's
was like
great.
a drag show, I think in February maybe, that she
Hell yeah.
got to take her students on a field trip to. And that was really cool to look at, even though I wasn't there and I wasn't part of it, but that as a teacher, she could kind of bring these students into this really inclusive, LGBT friendly place
Yeah,
while they were in high school, which
that's
is something I
awesome.
never even dreamed of when I was in high school.
Hmm.
And
That's
so,
really great.
yeah, it's really cool that those spaces are expanding and becoming more inclusive in a lot of places.
Yeah, for sure. I wish we would have been allowed to do that. Our school, being very conservative, I might it might go a little political here for a second, but
Okay.
I'm not gonna linger on it. Um, they paid for the buses if people wanted to go to a Trump rally, but they refused to pay for buses to go to a Hillary or Bernie rally. As well as they would pay for buses to go to like any sort of like conservative like I guess I'm trying to think like we had like a Christian women's convention in like the downtown area,
Mm-hmm.
and they paid for a lot of the students to go to that, but they refused to send a bus to go with the GSA to the LGBT or the Pride Parade,
Yeah.
which was like, okay, well, that's a little crappy of you, but I mean, it's I'm glad that there's a change in that now where people can like go to those things, because I would have loved to go to those types of things when I was in high school. It would have been very different formatively for me.
Yeah. And I think part of it is also the difference between private and public schools is because your school is probably funded by a lot of Republican groups.
Oh yeah.
So there was
Oh
probably
yeah.
that bias on that business side of, hey, we'll probably give you a discount or some sort of group deal to bring students here.
Mm.
But
It was interesting, and I was so many people left to go to the Trump rally just because it also meant they got out of school.
yeah, that
And
probably
it's
helps.
like, well, that's even shittier.
I mean, when I was in high school, I took Chinese for 2 years, but I became really good friends with the Chinese teacher who was the sweetest old lady who did not understand high school customs whatsoever. So all the way through my junior and senior year, she kept running me passes to get out of class to either go just hang out in her classroom or to go on the Chinese field trips with them. That was really
That's
nice.
great. That's really cool, though.
Yeah, I got to
Yeah.
get out of a lot of biology classes. So
Hey, I did a very similar thing with my physics class. One of my favorite teachers uh is was such a great guy, and I don't think he'd mind if I said his name. His name is Mr. Hipschman,
mm-hmm.
and it sounds like this older guy that's like, it sounds like he's older. He's like 20 something, and he's one of the most badass teachers ever, and he's like probably one of the most innocent, kind-hearted people I've ever known. And he was our physics teacher, and every year we would take a physics field trip to Kings Island.
What's Kings
And
Island?
so Kings Island is a theme park like Six Flags,
Okay.
or yeah. So uh, there's a bunch of different rides and stuff, and like some of the biggest roller coasters.
Was that part of like the physics class?
Yeah, that was part of the physics class, and so we would get like an entire day off to go to that. And even if I wasn't in his class, he was like, "Yeah, you can come. Just, come on." Like, it was. I found it so funny. Like, it was every year, typically in like May. So like really close to the end of school, and we would all just pack up into a bus and drive off, and almost the entire time we would be playing some type of game, and I found it hilarious that my teacher was 100. I believe we played like different card games a little bit. In the back, I know some of the people that I think had brought Cards Against Humanity. I don't think the teacher knew, but they were playing Cards Against Humanity, which I thought was hilarious on a school trip. It was really great, and he was totally okay with people that weren't in the class coming, which I thought was fucking funny. So it's like these people that had no clue what was going on doing this thing. Me and him had become such good friends that normally when you go on this trip, you had to like fill out like a physics packet of like doing some like physics questions based off of the rides that were going on.
Yeah, we had that at my high school as well.
Yeah, but he didn't care if we did that.
Maybe it's a physics teacher thing, because my physics teacher was like, "You guys are all seniors. We're supposed to go do a project at Valley Fair, which is like our version of Six Flags." And he's like, "You know what? I don't care. Just go have fun. You graduate in like a month. No one cares."
Right?
It was great.
I love that a lot.
And all the other schools and all the other classes had like a bunch of work they were doing, and my entire class of like 20-something of us seniors were just like, "We're just gonna have a fun day."
Yeah, exactly. It's like I felt like it was the time that the nerds got rewarded.
Yeah. I think that's what it was. It was only the advanced physics classes that didn't have to do anything, but the regular ones did.
We were in IB physics.
Hey!
So yeah!
Yeah!
IB physics. I did not do well on our test for IB physics.
I think I got a 4, which is passing, but you don't get any college credit for that.
Yeah, I got a 4 on my writing on that assessment, but on our testing assessment, I got, I believe, a 3. But I was totally okay with that because for some of the questions, I did not take them seriously at all. Yeah. Because I wasn't a main IB student. I just wanted to take a class with this teacher again.
Yeah.
So I believe there's rads, which is like radians per second, basically. And I just started talking about rads from Fallout.
That's very good.
I was like, so in order to make sure that you only get 3 rads, you need to make sure you put on some power armor, take some Rad-X, ingest that, and then you should be fine in the wasteland. Just be very careful of interacting with any ghouls. And I wrote that down on the test. And
I bet that test grader absolutely loved you. I really hope that test grader knew what Fallout was and was like familiar enough to understand what you were saying.
I really hope so too, man.
That's very good.
It was great. I was also in an IB math course, and my project for that was basically a dungeon creator for Dungeons and Dragons that used probability. So I used the kind of the probability, and it would take like a seed almost, and it would kind of use this abstract method of extrapolation of numbers to basically form an entire dungeon out of it.
That's cool.
It was interesting. I believe I also got a 4 on that. But, my math wasn't all there.
But it was a cool idea. Someone else.
It was a cool idea. It was very unique.
Yeah.
Apparently. So that's what I did with that.
Yeah, I think that was the only IB class I took because I was very much an AP kid.
I didn't do either up until that point. I was just like, okay, I guess I'm suddenly doing IB. I never took AP, but I heard it was a killer.
I was very much an overachiever from the age of like 6 until about 17. So I took every AP class, all the like advanced classes. I did a bunch of college prep stuff, and then I went to college and was like, I'm passing. It's fine.
I feel like I've become more of an overachiever now in college, actually. Because I believe I have a 3.88 GPA.
I don't want to talk about my GPA.
Okay. Which is,
I think I'm clinging on to a 3. But you know what? I graduate in like less than 2 months. I don't care.
I gotcha. But a 3.88 I feel pretty good about. Mm-hmm. So I feel happy.
Like once I hit college, I found other things I was more interested in than schoolwork. Because when I was in high school, I wasn't involved in a whole lot besides school and school-related activities. And then when I went to college, like I had no friends at the school I went to. I wasn't really involved in any clubs or activities. So I kind of started finding my own passions and things that I was really interested in. And so I put my efforts into those instead of schoolwork.
That's great though. Like,
Yeah.
I guess I found my passions in school.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, since I go to a super liberal arts college, because I am a game design major, so that's like fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And that's where I found a lot of my passions. And then I
Mm-hmm.
also, of course, I love Dungeons and Dragons. So I run my school's Dungeons and Dragons club of about 70 some people. Uh,
That's rad. That
which
is so cool.
I thanks. I appreciate it because I was just like, what the frick? How did I get this many people under like one thing? And even now I think that about RT LGBT plus, where it's like, how did I? It's like fucking lightning hit the bottle, and now we're going.
Yeah.
And I feel very lucky that that this took off, and I'm glad that people are finding a lot of fun and a lot of a sense of community in it.
Well, like every time I go and check like the general chat, like it says 50 plus messages and I have to scroll like way up to go read through them all because there's
Mm.
so many people talking and connecting and just chatting about their days, or like people were talking about the music that comes up on Pandora earlier, and
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's crazy. It's great.
I am so happy that we're, and it's also like I'm glad that we just recently added in fumet, which is our first international mod. So I'm glad we've got that because I definitely felt like beforehand we had at least kind of
We're
to some
very North
extent
America based.
very North America based, and I'm glad
Which
that we're
matches up with a lot of our members, but
yeah.
not all of them.
I mean, at the same rate, we also have some people in Australia. So
Yeah.
I
And
guess
we're probably not going to have an Australian mod for a very, very long time. Sorry,
yeah.
Australia.
But we can definitely try to get stuff that goes on during the times that they're active.
Yeah. That reminds me, I should talk to Fume about setting up a RTX London meetup.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
We're doing the Austin one, so
yeah, we are. So I'm gonna be contacting the restaurant we have spoken about.
Details to follow.
100%.
Stay tuned. Subscribe, like and subscribe. 5 stars.
Actually, if you could go give us a good rating on iTunes.
Actually, that would be rad, because I'm the only person who has rated us, and I feel bad writing the first review as the person who published it. So someone else should go do that, please.
100%. I would also appreciate that, because I feel like being the host, that wouldn't be so great.
Yeah, we're the only two who can't do the first one.
Yep.
Everyone else, go leave us a nice review. Say, hey, I like listening to your voice once a week. Thanks.
I would also appreciate it.
You could also just type rad and give us 5 stars, and we'll appreciate that just as much.
Mm-hmm. I just subscribed to us, by the way.
Yay!
Oh, apparently we have
subscribers.
Why do we have the explicit tag? I guess we cuss.
Because we swear. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because I didn't want us to get dinged for not having the explicit tag. Apparently, across all platforms, we have 19 subscribers at the moment.
That's great.
That's rad. Last time I looked, we were at 8, and that was yesterday, so.
Oh, wow.
Only 13 listens.
That's fine.
But that doesn't count YouTube.
We're growing. Any other things you want to talk about?
I think we got sufficiently in depth with our high school lives.
Oh, God.
Talked about high school GSAs.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about iTunes. I think that was everything on my list. Plus extra physics fun.
Yeah, physics.
Which is a sentence I never thought I'd say.
Hey, physics can be really fun. Thank you very much.
To be fair, I napped through about half of my physics class, and the other half I listened to my friend talk about art history. So, you know.
I mean, that's fair. I probably preferred, I had pre-engineering classes that I preferred more than that, because we got to
you were
model.
Like super science kid.
Yeah. I took
extra English classes, so.
I mean, I took I took IB math, IB physics. I took I believe our science requirement was 6 credits of science. I had about 9 or so.
That was me in English and also
Yeah.
me in music.
It was also me in theater. I took way more than any sort of theater stuff that we needed.
I took intro to theater, I think my senior year, and I wish I had done it earlier because theater's a lot of fun.
It's so great. I love my theater, my high school theater so much. They were some of the very first people that were super, super supportive about me being in the LGBT. And it was like, of course they were, right? But
yeah,
but
it's theater. That's how it works.
But it was kind of exactly the support exactly when I needed it, sort of thing, and it was great. Theater is great.
Yeah. All right. I think that's everything. I think that's as long as we can talk about ourselves today.
Yeah, we don't want to go too long and bore people. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Please go check us out on iTunes if you want. You don't have to. Or
Google Play or YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Join the Discord.
Especially
send one of us a message just for fun, as long as you're nice.
Just don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, just type rad and a little smiley face and you're good. I'm going to try and make that a thing.
That'd be cool. I'd be okay with it. Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah,
next
week.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just do another admin cast. It'll just be Jen and Zoe talk for half an hour every week.
I mean, if people like it, I mean.
We'll have our own offshoot. We'll have a podcast within a podcast.
Oh, God.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.